And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
A disclaimer before I do this review, Off Your Rocker, is that I did a preview, a paid preview for this earlier, so take this video as you will. This is now the finished product of Off Your Rocker. It's a party game. Now, I said in the paid preview video that I did enjoy it, and I still very much enjoy this game. Let me give you a quick overview of the components and how the game works once again. In Off Your Rocker, players are going to collectively pick one person to be the psychiatrist first, and that person's going to leave the room. Then everybody else is going to draw one of these cards, and they're going to use one of the things in this card. For example, players think they can control the world with a TV remote. Players think that the psychiatrist is suicidal. Each time a player's name is mentioned, the player is starving. Players think that today is one of the players' wedding's day. You decide who that is ahead of time. The cards are two-sided. When answering a question, a player must touch her or his face. Other players must not. Players think they are announcers at a golf tournament. Players are obsessed with the letter H. Players think they are currently living in the 1990s. Players think they're on an airplane. Now, whichever one they pick, the psychiatrist will then come back into the room. And he will then ask people questions. He can ask players any questions he wants. It can be kind of a pain. You'd be surprised at how people can't remember what questions to ask. So you can add. So the instruction book has things like you can ask, "What's your favorite color? What's your favorite food? What did you do today?" And then you have to answer like this. For example, players are trying to conceal the fact that one of the patients is a giant squid. So let's say we say Bob is a giant squid, and then he says, "What's your favorite color?" And I say, "It's hard to tell right now because everything seems black." That might be my response because this squid has inked me. And everyone will give responses. Now, what you're trying to do with these responses is to act like the person without being obvious. You can say, "Well, I can't tell you right now because Joe's a squid." That's just too obvious. You can't be obvious about it. You're supposed to be clever. That's the whole point of this game, is to be clever. You know, sometimes the things will be obvious, like each answer must not be a complete sentence, so that everyone will, when someone says, "What's your favorite food?" and then you say hamburgers, and that might be a very short thing, and the psychiatrist is asking questions until he can try to figure out what exactly everyone's quirk is, and so he'll guess. If he's correct, he'll get a point card. Then everybody else is going to simultaneously point at the person that they think gave the best answer, and everybody who gave the best answers, anyone who has any finger pointed at them, gets a point. Now, if you notice, these point tokens are all different styles and colors of ones. I thought that was a pretty neat touch. Didn't have to do that, but whoever has the most fingers pointed at them becomes the psychiatrist for the next round and goes out of the room. Now, it is quite possible for players to make the game more advanced by saying you have to do both things in the cards, and there is plenty of cards in the game, and there's 2 questions on each side and 2 sides, so there's 4 questions per card, so there's going to be a lot of replayability in this. After a set amount of rounds, whoever has the most points is the winner. So there you have Off Your Rocker. Now, a couple things I want to talk about it. First, about the theme. I think this is a super party game. But there are going to be some people who are not overly fond of the theme because it talks about mental illnesses, and that can be a sore spot with many people. In fact, even I mentioned that in a game that I talked about before. But in this game, it's hard to explain. The things that they're making fun of, most of them aren't even real. I mean, to believe that I'm a spy and no one else is a spy, okay, maybe I'm sure someone will email me and say, "No, there's one person somewhere," but you're not mocking people who have mentally unhinged things. Rather, you are trying to figure out what a quirk of a person is and being clever about doing it. There's no mockery of the people involved. You might mock the people who are doing their actions for whatever funny thing they say or do, but it's all about that. It's kind of an extended version of charades, and so you're looking for a quirk, and so they use the off your rocker theme to do that. The game works well. With non-creative people, it's going to fizzle a little because some people sit there, I don't know what question to ask, even though the book has like 20 that you can ask people if you can't think of something, or I don't know how to answer that, or they'll answer it in a very obvious way. You think you're a fish, and so what are you doing today? Glug glug. You know, they don't. There's no wittiness about them. But if you play with the right crowd, this can be a hilarious game, as people will do different puns back and forth or build off what other people say, and you really can find yourself laughing at the end. So this is a good party game. You're going to need a more specific crowd than most, I think. You're going to need people who are outgoing and clever on their feet. This isn't one of those games where I say anybody can play it. Well, yeah, anybody can play it, but not anybody's going to play it well. But if you have a group of people who like things like Monarchy would be a good comparison, or any kind of charade type game, this one's going to work well off your rocker.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find the latest board game news at Dicetowernews.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Fun Again Games, the world's best game source. Fun Again Games has over 5,000 games available. Check them out at funagain.com.